Does your avoidant partner or your avoidant ex sometimes act in a very childlike, immature manner? Do they sometimes seem like they are just a grown child and they're emotionally immature? Well, that's because they are. Emotional maturity requires self-reflection. Self-reflection is how you grow emotionally. When you self-reflect, you are doing the polar opposite of avoiding. You're processing emotions, not suppressing them. You're reflecting on where you went right, where you went wrong, your shortcomings, your mistakes, acknowledging them and seeing how you can do better, taking accountability, reflecting on how your behavior impacts others. Well, that is very difficult and painful for an avoidant to do. And it goes back to their childhood. This is a person that received consistent childhood emotional neglect. They weren't given the love, nurturing, and care that they needed as children. They may have grown up in a stable household. Some did, some didn't, but they weren't given that love and emotional support that they needed. They weren't shown how to process emotions. They weren't shown how to speak about their feelings. They had to learn how to do it on their own. So what they learn to do is to avoid it, to not deal with it, suppress it, stuff it. And this includes self-reflection. They personalize that neglect and grew up to feel like there's something wrong with them, that they are unlovable, that they're defective and worthless. For a healthy person, self-reflection is a part of growth. That's how you learn to do better. But for an avoidant, self-reflection is confirming their own perceived inner defectiveness. It's not simply, I did this wrong, this is how I can do better. In the mind of the insecure avoidant, it's, I did this wrong because I'm worthless, because I'm defective, because I'm not lovable. It's too painful. They won't go there because they don't want to provoke that core wound. So what they do is they look for external things to blame their fears on, to blame their insecurities on, and to blame their behaviors on. Because if they find something externally, like their partner, work, something like that, then they don't have to take accountability. They don't have to self-reflect. They get to avoid poking at that core wound. And that defectiveness wound is a core wound of shame. Shame is a toxic emotion. It often gets confused with guilt, but it's something entirely different. Guilt is, I did something wrong. If you're feeling guilty and you did something wrong, that means you have a conscience. But guilt can be resolved because you can not repeat the behavior that you feel guilty about. And if you hurt somebody, you can make amends with the person that you hurt. Whereas guilt is, I did something wrong. Shame is, I am something wrong. There's really no resolution to I am something wrong. That's why it's a toxic, hurtful, maladaptive emotion. But due to the lack of self-reflection, avoidants don't grow emotionally. They stay emotionally stunted at childlike ages. You may be dealing with a 25, 40, 50, 60-year-old adult, but emotionally, they're still a child because they have not self-reflected and grown. So you'll see childlike behaviors. They often need immediate gratification. They can be very impulsive, especially when it comes to things that give them that dopamine, give them that external validation. And when they get triggered, they can react like a child. I'm storming off to my room and I'm taking my toys with me. I'm shutting down, I'm pushing you out. Or when they get called out and tried to hold accountable, completely silent or even lashing out, but very immature reactions. So what you have is a person that grew in certain aspects of their life, their IQ, their ability to do their job, things that don't involve emotions, but they have the emotional regulation capacity of a young child, the ability to process emotions at the level of a young child. So if you sense that this person is emotionally immature, that's because they are. It's Peter Pan syndrome. They never grew up emotionally. They stay stunted. It is emotionally stunted growth. Because if you're not willing to look at where you went wrong, how can you possibly do better if you can't even acknowledge that you made a mistake, that you hurt somebody? If you can't go there, How can you possibly improve? And this is why avoidants often repeat the same behavior over and over and over and over again, repeating the same failed relationship cycle. It's because they're refusing to look within. They're refusing to take accountability because it's just too painful for them. Can they fix this? Of course they can. Many avoidants do get to the point in their lives where they are willing to make change, where they are willing to self-reflect. But usually that requires them hitting rock bottom. Rock bottom is different for every person. Some people don't have a deep rock bottom, some people never get there. But rock bottom is when the pain of the consequences of their actions is so profound that they are willing to do anything, whatever it takes, to never have to go through that again. For some avoidants, that pain is losing or potentially losing a person in their life that's actually important to them, a person they care about. Some, unfortunately, that rock bottom is just so deep that they never get there. But it is very difficult to sustain a relationship with a person that has severe emotional immaturity if this person is not actively working on themselves to learn and grow.